All right, Shalawam, Shalawam. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone for teaching us His truth. Salutations to the sincere Akim and Aquas that may listen. May the blessing of election be upon your house. My name is Brother Raquai. I'm back in here with another quick lesson. And for today's lesson, I titled it The Dark Ages Icons, and I really wanted to touch on a couple and show a couple different things that I discovered in one of my, excuse me, that I found in one of my books. And I thought it was really, really interesting that, we're living in a time where, a lot of information is coming out. As a matter of fact, let me start off with this quick precept, before I jump into the pictures, right? And I wanted to share some of these pictures with you brothers and few sisters that might listen, right? So this is excuse me, this is Luke 12:2, and it says, for there is not, and Yahushua speaking, for there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, neither anything hid that shall not be known, right? So we're living in a time where a lot of information is coming out, and the information of who the real people of the Bible are and how they actually looked, right? And if you don't know, Putin recently had exposed a lot of this information in regards to how a lot of the biblical Israelites looked, and a lot of that history from the so-called Dark Ages, that 1,000 years that you read about in Revelation 20, right? So without further ado, I want to go through a couple examples and show you a couple things that I don't know if it's exactly Putin that had released this, but these are all examples of Dark Ages icons, right? So the first off, so this is one you'd have to look on the screen for these ones, right? Okay, so just bear with me one sec. Okay. Rotate it so it's easier for you brothers to see, right? So here I have on the screen, this is King Charlemagne. It says King Charlemagne, Black Holy Roman Emperor. This is one example. Charlemagne, this is, I can't pronounce this, Karlstein Castle in Czech Republic. Meaning Charles the Great, 742 to 1814, was king of the Franks from 768 and emperor of the Romans from 800 till his death in 814. So this is one example. Another example, let me just see what else I have here. Okay, here's another example. So here you can see Yahushai and the disciples. If you scroll in, this one, it says the icons of the saints of the British Isles in Ireland, right? So you have a lot of our people who were actually there, during that time, like 1600s, prior to that as well, right? And a lot of them, just a fun fact, a lot of them got exported and exiled to the Caribbean islands, right? That's why a lot of you Israelites who are there, have Scottish or Irish last names. Let me just see if I could find that page actually, because I think there was a quick caption under that. Just give me 1 second. Just selected a few. Let me see if I find it. Okay, I found it. Okay, it doesn't really give so much information. It just says this image was found in Saint Seraphim Church in Walsingham, Norfolk, England. In the image, it depicts kings, princes, nuns, and black who were present in Yahushai's time as being black, right? And we normally say so-called black because really our skin's actually brown, right? With different shades of brown. We're not actually the skin color of, the tires on your vehicle, right? So that those are just buzzwords and bywords that have been put on us. Like when you read about Deuteronomy 28 and 37, those are that's an example of a byword, right? That has been put on us to kind of make us seem a lot more inferior than we really are, right? I know the images are small, but this one, but it is the one of the pieces of the puzzle. As you can see the blown up image on the next page, right? Okay, there's another one as well. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, okay, this one is a knight, Black Knights of Europe. Okay, so this one here, this one says painted panel from the outer right hand wing of the polyptych. A young man wears a crown of a nobleman and carries a red and white military pennant, um, and a shield of the Holy Roman Empire circa 1447 from Weinerstad Neustadt Abbey in Stephansdom, Vienna. He is claimed to be the Saint Maurice, right? And the saints are Israelites. I think that's in Psalms, I believe it's Psalms 50 or Psalms 148, if I'm not mistaken. And it says, the revelation that you should be getting is simple. Kings, popes, knights were black people, but why white Europeans try to hide this truth about Negro rulership in Europe, right? And that's true. Like, why did they try to hide it? Because normally people would say, oh, it's skin color doesn't make a difference. Well, if it doesn't make a difference, then why go so much effort to actually hide it? And through that process, what we know as iconoclasm, right? There's another one I wanted to actually um oh, this was the one I actually found. I think this one, it was an image of what was his name? I think his last name, he was a Duke of Italy, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was Alessandro. The name escapes me. Alessandro, I think it was, he would belong to the Medici family, if I'm not mistaken. Right? I believe so. I have to double confirm this one. Right? There's another one I found. This one was actually very interesting as well. It actually was an example in the book of a dark, of a so-called Black Russian king. So let me see if I can just find that page really quickly, and I'll read a little snippet of it. Okay, so this is, it says, Black Kings of Russia, King Mirian III. So here it says, Mirian III was a king of Kartli, modern day Georgia. Contemporary to the Roman Emperor Constantine I, Kartli was a successor. Kartli, excuse me, was a successor state of the ancient kingdom of the Colchis. Where it says they are, so here it says they are black skinned and have woolly hair, and ancient kingdom of eastern Iberia, right? I think that's around modern day, I believe that's around Spain or Portugal, if I'm not mistaken. 17th century mural from the Svetshovli Cathedral in Georgia, excuse me. According to the early medieval Georgian annals and hagiography, Mirian was the first Christian king of Iberia, converted through the ministry of Nino, a Cappadocian female missionary. He is credited, excuse me, with establishment of Christianity, and his kingdom state religion is regarded by the Georgian Orthodox Church as a saint, right? So that's a little bit info on this particular character. What I'll do as well, I'm gonna I'll include a lot of this information in the post description, so you can look up these different kings and check it out. Check out the images as well, and I'll actually list the what's it called, the book as well that I'm also referencing. So you can actually, if you want to get a copy, you can, check it out yourself, and, scriptures also say prove all things, right? So, and, so this is Amos chapter 3, verse 7. It says, surely the Lord Yahweh, thy power will do nothing, but revealeth his secret unto his servants, the prophets. And this was the kind of information that was revealed onto, our apostles and elders on down and trickling down to us, right? And, this information has been kept secret for so long and been hidden from our 2/3 of our people and majority of the Western countries, because it's very interesting because we don't have control over these images that you normally see Israelites being depicted on your local television, and the kinds of images that you normally see are very images of degeneracy, lewdness, debauchery, criminals, and that is the image that is pushed forth. You're addicted to substance abuse. You always need a fix. You need some kind of coping. You have some kind of drug problem. Single motherhood. It's never you never see positive images of our people depicted on TV, right? And that's why image is so important. And I think that's part of the reason, in my personal opinion, why they hid so much of this information, from us. Because imagine if our children were to see these particular images, they would aspire to actually, do the right thing. Scriptures talk about a child, training up a child in the way they should go, right? And the way children should be growing up, an Israelite child, a girl or boy, is, with these laws, statutes, and commandments. That's what keeps them cultured. That's why we have them, right? But you have a lot of our children and even grown adults today running around like, they're degenerate plants, right? So let's get another, let's get 1 second. Okay, this is Job chapter 9, verse 24, and it says, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? Right? And one of the main judges he's covered up is our Lord and Savior Yahushua, and how he actually depicted. And that's one of the things that Putin is exposing, through his different icons that he's maintained, that Russia has maintained for several hundreds of years, and and through the spirit that has been put on our apostles and elders, is to expose a lot of the images and the dark hidden secrets that's been hidden for so long, because a lot of this information has been swept under the carpet, so to speak, right? And this is one of the things that Esau has done to maintain his quote unquote rundown kingdom, right? To make himself look like he is somebody when he's really just a nobody, right? Let's go to okay, this is Revelation 20, verse 7, and it says, and when the 1,000 years expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison, and should go out to deceive the nations, wherein the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the number of the sand of the sea, right? And that 1,000 years refers to the time, this particular time that I'm reading about, known as the Dark Ages, it's also known as the Byzantine Empire, it's also known as the Holy Roman Empire. That period of time where, you had, Israelites, they were ruling, right? And another example of this, and you brothers can look this up as well. There was, how's it called? Benjamin Franklin, So Benjamin Franklin wrote a letter back in 1751. He's one of the so-called founding fathers of America. Back in 1751, he wrote a letter explaining why should the so-called sons of Africa, come and take over the colonies, to roughly paraphrase, right? And back then, all the nations that he listed, whether it was uh, England, it was France, you had Sweden, Russia, a couple of other nations as well that I'm not listening. Could also do a lesson on it. He listed a bunch of other nations, and that time they knew back then that those nations were ruled by dark-skinned, swarthy people. Swarthy meaning to referring to dark-skinned, or they were also known as tawny as well, right? So I could put all this information in the description box, right? Back then they knew and had an idea that they were dark-skinned people who were ruling over these particular nations, right? That our people may not associate and think that, oh, we were ruling in that times. Israel don't consider, like it says in Isaiah chapter 1, right? So that was part of this deception. And after that 1,000 years was fulfilled, Satan was loosed in his, loose for his little season, not the spiritual demon Satan, but a man coming after doing the works of Satan, right? Like it says in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, right? A man came and he began doing this deception, right? And this is why in the Catholic Church and these other offshoots, Protestant churches, people associate the Messiah and associate, the angels, associate the people of the Bible, the Israelites, as people who did not have melanin in their skin, right? So that's really one of the main reasons I wanted to bring out this particular lesson, because our people are there's gross darkness out here. Like it says in Isaiah 60, gross darkness to people, and people are completely in the dark about how these people looked, right? So, there are a couple more icons in here, but for the sake of time, I didn't want to make the lesson too long. But I could always make a part 2 and show some more of these icons that's actually hidden away in this book here, and I could link it to the description box, and you could check out the other research on seeing these different kings, nobles that existed during this particular time, right? So anyways, hopefully Yahweh Ratazah, this lesson was edifying. As a matter of fact, let me end off with this last precept before I close, because it also gives a description of how Yahweh Shai looked. As a matter of fact, let me start at 1. So it says, Revelation 1:1. It says, the revelation of Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, which the Most High gave unto him to show unto his servants things which shortly must come to pass. He sent and signified it by his angel and his servant John. So verse 13, it says, in the midst of 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and a girt about the paps with a golden girdle. Golden girdle is kind of like a belt, so to speak, right? His head and his hairs were white like wool, and white as snow, and his eyes were of the flame and fire, and his feet like unto fine brass, as if it burnt in a furnace, and the voice as the sound of many waters, right? So he had a very commanding, authoritative voice, so this is describing a man of color, a man who has, melanin in his skin and woolly hair. When I read this precept, I normally think about, if you ever seen that movie, that movie with Jim Carrey, and then you have Morgan Freeman playing God, right? That's one of the depictions that comes to mind when I read this precept, right? So that is the image of how the Most High and Yahweh Shai look, right? They're people of color. The Israelites were people of color, right? Now, don't get me wrong. There are Israelites who have mixed and mingled amongst the other nations, right? So not all of them will look like your typical Denzel Washington. Let me just say that. Let me just say that right there, right? So, anyways, hopefully this video was edifying. I'd like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Makakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone for teaching us his truth. Till next time, I say Shalawam.